I mean, did that not frustrate you a little bit?
I didn't know what was happening at the time.
Okay.
I was in my interviews.
Okay. So tell me, going into the interview, the second interview with Melody at the station.
Okay.
The fire station, I believe, or community center.
Yeah, it's the precinct, the sheriff's office precinct, fire station, and community center.
It's everything, all in one outfit.
Yes.
In Freeholm.
Correct.
Okay. So you're out there preparing that. You explained to the jury the area you did the interviews and all these things. But what was your plan going into the interview with Melody?
To get the truth.
What was your vision of the case? You've been on the case for 10 hours at that point. What was your thoughts?
At the time, everybody's pointing fingers at everybody, you know. So I was going in knowing now that Gary had been shot, that we found the bullet. At this time, I didn't know about the bullet in the basement, but I knew that Gary had been shot, so that changed the outlook of the investigation. You know, I'd already spoken with Melody once. Wanted to see what else she knew now that I could present her this new information.
Okay. What is your tactic? What would you say your tactics are generally for an interview or an interrogation?
My tactics?
Yeah.
It depends. I like to go in and try to read the people that I'm talking to. I feel like I can read people pretty well. Sometimes people need to be talked to a little more aggressively than others. Sometimes a simple conversation can accomplish the goal. So I'm pretty fluid in that.
Okay. So you seem to be, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but typically yours is a more conversational style. Correct?
Correct.
And I mean, you know, we've all sat here and listened to so many hours of your interviews. You don't seem to be very confrontational, correct?
At this time, no.
Okay. Never really in any of these interviews you seem to be the one that was like, Pope was brought in up in Tennessee to be confrontational, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And then in this one, as much as I guess he can be because he's always apologizing, Kuykendall was the confrontational one.
Yeah, I'd listen to the interview. I'd agree with that.
Okay. So was that predetermined or just something that happened?
No. With which one?
Not with Pope. I think y'all determined in advance he was going to be the bad cop.
With Kuykendall?
With Kuykendall.
It wasn't predetermined. You know, that interview happened pretty quickly after the bullet in the rib bone was found, and he and I had done so many interviews together in the past because most of our criminal investigations career we've worked together in some form or fashion, you know, and we read each other pretty good. I know when to shut up. When he's talking, he knows when I butt in to listen and things like that.
Well, it sounded like he did a lot of talking in that interview.
He always does.
Okay. Maybe sometimes when he's under cross-examination.
He's probably going to be mad when he goes back and watches this.
But I want to get to something. So, you know, you guys already knew essentially about her having a relationship with Rusty Barton. When did you find out about it?
Yep. Family members, I don't recall. I mean, obviously, I think Scott had mentioned it, the name Rusty Barton. Then we eventually had found that credit card.
Which Kuykendall found, I believe.
I don't recall who.
Okay. All right, so you had heard it from family members already. You knew that Scott had said there's a missing gun and there's a Rusty Barton, right?
And the Ted Wiley, yes.
And Ted Wiley. You already knew about Ted Wiley, a guy from 10 years ago.
Right.
Right, but, you know, she's not over here, and the district attorney's office kind of questioned about things that she didn't bring up and things like that. You know, you've been doing this for a long time, Hayes. People don't typically bring up extramarital relationships in interviews right away, right?
Oh, they typically don't offer the information, no.
They don't.
Right.
So that's not unusual, right?
I'd agree with that.
Okay. So going into, it's safe to say, did you know about any extramarital relationships going into the first interview sitting on the porch?
I don't believe I did at that time.
Okay. But you did already know about the gun.
I'd heard mention of it.
Going into that interview,
Correct.
within the first 30 minutes of you being on a crime scene.
Correct.
Okay. But you didn't know about the affair.
I don't believe I did.
All right. But you knew about the affair by the time we get to the station that night.
Yes.
Did you know anything more, like any details about the affair? Can you remember?
I believe the statement was that she would disappear up to Tennessee, and the people that Miss Barton that she was going up there to visit and take care of, and
Martha Jane.
Martha Jane.
All right.
Martha
So
Jane
you already
Barton.
knew about Martha Jane.
Yes.
So it's safe. I mean, we've all been together now, and I keep saying that, but it's unique for me to cross-examine somebody who has sat here and had 2.5 weeks to study for the exam.
Yes.
But it's safe to say that you knew all the cast and characters that this jury knows about right now within about the first 6 hours of you being on scene.
Most of them, yes. I'd say that's fair.
The primary
yeah.
people on that picture board that the district attorney's office printed out, and you knew about it.
Yes.
Even some of them you'd say you knew about within 2 hours, the vast majority of them.
Yes.
Okay. How do you think that framed the way you thought for the rest of this case?
Knowing how many people were involved or that names were brought up?
Kind of generally what you already knew. You knew that there was a spouse and she was having an affair, and you have a son that says a gun is missing.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed that has been the general theme of y'all's case since within the first hour of arriving on scene?
We were told that pretty early arriving on scene, and as we continued to investigate it, the evidence continued to point that way.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to the scene, because I want to kind of get to this point. You go back to the scene after her interviews, and Hegwood, you collected some evidence, did you not? Church. How do I get into this? Do I need gloves?
And there's some gloves.
I have some.
Case has gloves in there.
There's gloves in this.
You probably need some gloves too. We'll get some together. I'll give you the shoes back. So where were you back when you went back to the house? Where were you in the house when you found this shirt?
The shirt, the master bedroom closet.
Okay. And doing a terrible job. Johnny Cochran would be upset with me putting on these gloves. All right, I got it. I'm going to do this with one glove. And Hegwood, I'm good to pull this out?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay. May I approach, Your Honor? Okay. If you could hold that up. Open. You could open it. We've seen pictures, but sometimes I think we should look at the real things. Is that the shirt that you found? It's okay if you don't remember, but...
Yes.
All right. Tell me what drew your attention to this shirt.
At the time, it was a little darker back then. I think in the packaging, some of the soot has been wiped away, but there was what appeared to be.
You think that was soot?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you said?
That's what it looked like to me.
Okay. And was it in a... All right, there's all kinds of circles drawn on this.
Yeah, there is now.
What is this stuff? Did you notice any of this?
You know, when I pulled it out and handed it off, we all started looking at it. And, you know, I had 2 crime scene detectives there with me.
Do you remember which ones?
It was Shaw, I know, was with me because we were doing the walk through the house. And Ballard was on scene because he was called over as well. You know, that big cutting, we started seeing stains that looked like they were possibly blood.
Right. Now I got to ask you this: Did you say to Your Honor? Could you turn on the overhead, please? Yes, I'll do. I will do whatever you guys think I should do. Right. So this is the spot you're talking about right here.
Correct.
All right. Which could be any number of things. Yes?
I agree.
Dirt, you name it.
Could be.
Did you ever look over at Shaw and say, "Hey, Shaw, can we do a test to see if this is soot?"
No.
All right. Did Shaw look over at you and say, "You know, we got a really good soot test. I can check for that."
No.
Well, then how? You don't really know what this is supposed to be, right?
Well, not scientifically, I can know. You know, my guesstimate is from looking at it.
It's just a guesstimate from looking at it, but it
Sure.
could be any number of things, right?
I agree with that.
All right. And then the blood, you know, we got cuttings and all this stuff. We got cutting of blood up here. This is the hole that was cut out. That was where the blood was found.
Yes.
And you were made aware at least later that was just Melody's blood, right? You knew that.
Yes.
Okay. You know that now.
I do now.
Okay. Did you ever ask anybody on scene what she was wearing and when she was wearing this shirt?
No.
Okay. The shoes. Where did they go? Is there another pair of shoes?
There's 2 pairs.
I need both. I'm sorry, everyone. I apologize. All right. These shoes right here. Did you find these? I think you found all the shoes, right?
I did.
All right. So, what did you notice about these shoes?
When I looked at the bottom of them, you could see what appeared to be a blood stain on the bottom.
All right. But they hadn't. There was 2 pairs of shoes, both roughly looking like Nikes.
Correct.
What's that?
Small table in the back.
The little foldable one?
You put this stuff on?
Yeah. Bring in the, let's
Yeah, let's get
let's take a second.
Wait. You know what, Hayes? This is why I'm not in charge of crime scene intake.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Judge makes another quick decision and doesn't have his card and can't get back in this.
Okay, you can have a seat. All right, so this is the one. Did you find these first?
I don't recall which ones I found first.
But these were not wet.
Correct. This pair was not wet.
Okay. But you did you find them in the closet or in the mud room?
They're in the closet.
All right. And nothing, to your knowledge, has been cut from these shoes, right?
Correct.
So this, I believe, is what you guys continue to be blood. And we know it's been 6 years since this, but this was the blood spot right up here?
Yes, the dark spot under the red, under your thumb, yeah.
Right here.
Yes.
Was there any other blood that you knew of on these shoes?
Not that I knew of that I could see.
Okay. There's some markings up here I just didn't know if you made those markings or you had any clue what that.
I did not make those markings.
Right. And you knew these were ultimately tested, right?
Yes,
And none of these involved Gary's blood. This is Melody's blood.
that's correct.
Right. So what did you, I mean, you were the detective. What did you think was the cause of this blood on her shoes?
I didn't know. I know, when we spoke with her, she had broken some plates around this time frame, and you can hear in one of the interviews she pricked her finger, and she's working out on the farm. I don't know.
Did you ever go through any of the phone dumps in this case? They've been admitted through you, so did you go through them?
Some of them, yes.
Did you ever see the picture of Melody's bleeding finger?
I did eventually, yes. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so would you think that would be maybe when she got the blood on the shoes?
Could have.
But you don't know?
I don't know.
Right. But it was her blood?
Yes.
Right. All right, now I'm going to approach with these shoes. So where did you find these?
They were all in the closet. I believe there's been photographs shown of them. She had like cubby. I don't know. That's the best way I can describe it. Like cubby holes from elementary school with shoes in them. And I just started grabbing stuff.
But you testified earlier that you felt these shoes. Now, I think I heard you say you had gloves on.
Yes.
Just like we do now. Mm-hmm. So, how could you tell they were wet?
They were cold.
Okay.
Colder than the other pair.
But did you see any water beating off, or did you squeeze it and have any water drops come out?
No.
And these shoes, were they tested? Do you know?
I don't know. I believe a spot, Sergeant Shaw on the scene had swabbed a spot on one of them and did the presumptive test, and it was negative.
Negative for blood. No, there was nothing on these shoes.
Correct.
Okay. So at this time, Your Honor, I would like to admit defense Hayes exhibits 1, which is the shirt, 2, which is the shoes with the blood, and 3, which is the just plain shoes.
Any objections? All right, they're admitted.
And you know, this is a logical kind of stopping point for me.
If we can go for another 30 minutes
Okay.
or so, let's do it.
Okay.
But yeah, I knew there'd be no way you'd be done.
I'm just trying to find stop transition points. Okay. I think we can take the gloves off. I want to go now and talk about the there's like you said, you testified earlier, and I think that was one of the most informative pieces of information about being a detective. You don't get to do any of the fun stuff, and you spend all this time typing up search warrants and keeping this case forever. That's what a detective is. It's not fun like being on TV, right?
It's any type of law enforcement. It's 90% paperwork and 10% fun, if that.
Okay. So let's start into that. So you have now interviewed a vast number of people. You have interviewed Melody. So let's go to, I think the interview started about 9 o'clock. You testified earlier too on the 6th with Melody. That's the last interview.
Correct.
Went on for 3 or 4 hours. What'd you do after that? After this long interview with Melody?
You're talking about specifically on Friday?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
They were still searching. I'd gone to the scene at some point. They were still out there searching. Probably gone home and got some more rest as well.
Okay, so you went home and got a little rest. When did you guys, I don't know if this was the point you started tasking, where was Ty Kuykendall getting his tasks from that he testified to?
I don't know.
Not from you.
Some of them may have been from me, but mostly, yeah, someone else in the early stages, the first couple of days.
Okay. So how did you guys break up responsibilities from this point forward? As far as, because it looked like Kuykendall kind of went off and maybe started checking alibis. Would you say that's right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. How did you guys decide that?
Again, supervisors were directing people what to do because I wasn't there the entire time. So sometimes we made decisions and checked things on our own based off of the interviews that we had done, followed up on our own information that we had obtained.
So you would report to Hans,
Yes.
who was here just the other day. We saw him. You would report to Hans. Who would he report to?
The next person above him would be Lieutenant Clark. Whether he was following the chain of command or not, I don't know.
You don't know. So Hans and Clark would be giving out responsibilities
Correct.
simultaneously.
Sometimes.
So who was you were talking to Hans?
Mm-hmm.
Who was Kuykendall talking to?
I don't know.
Okay, all right. So where did the idea come from to separate and go to Tennessee versus go check out alibis? Because you went to Tennessee next, right?
No, I think I didn't go to Tennessee until Tuesday.
You went on the 10th, I believe.
Of the next week, on the 10th. That Monday, I called, started checking alibis. I called Ted and Philip, checking on Scott's alibi.
Okay. Why did you not take Kuykendall with you to Tennessee?
At some point in the early stages of this, Kuykendall started working another homicide investigation
Okay.
that had come in. So Kuykendall at some point became not available to me. I don't recall if that was this instance or not, but in the early stages of it, because I remember Kuykendall wasn't very happy that he had to go do something else. He wanted to stay on this case with me. Pope was available. I know Pope. I know his style. I know he's good at what he does. I think I asked him if he wanted to ride up with me because when I was told I was going, and when the decision made I was going, they're like, pick somebody, make the arrangement.